Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. We are 1 week away from WESOC, which will be celebrated on May 26th, 2024. The program looks very dynamic. All of us, the regular speakers and artists will be performing, singing for us live. I look forward to seeing all of you there. And this time, the whole theme will surround the presence, the mercy, and the love of the Divine Mother as a way to give us the protection and the grace that we need to move through the rapid changes that are happening in us and for us in the world. Anyways, tonight what I want to do is that I want to talk about our power. Where do we hold our power? Who holds it? What holds it? And how that can help us in this transit or hinder us in this transit. And we all are praying and we all are asking God for support. But many of us are not just waiting for God and you know, that old saying that you have to help yourself so that God can help you. That part is true, but a lot of us are not just doing that. We are editing, we are trying to control, we are very prefrontal cortex, trying to manipulate events, circumstances, trying to edit so that things happen in a certain kind of sequence, when in fact, maybe God's plan, it's in the detour and the side path. And that's where the ease and the flow of God will come for us. So it's a real challenge for us, I know at least for me, that for me to find that sweet spot that exists, because you know, ascendance is really, enlightenment is a mixture of surrender and doing. And so you have to find that sweet spot where you have to act at a certain point and behave and take charge into the world and implement God's inspiration and insight. But at other parts, you have to do the opposite. You have to completely surrender, you have to let go, and you have to, and at times, you have to stand still and do nothing. And the idea is try to figure out the timing as to when you're supposed to act and charge forward. And if you're charging forward, what path are you following? And what voice are you listening to? Are you listening to yourself and your own prefrontal cortex rationalization and linear tactical advice and survival advice? Or are you surrendering into a and knowing that you're going to be taken care of and God is with you, and that in that surrender you will allow for whatever God wants to bring forth for you to arrive at you. And I know it's kind of an existential question, and there's no right or wrong answer. But I want for us to focus a little bit, because everything that's happening in the world is triggering us to survive. It's triggering us to act and do this and do that. And especially if these triggers are coming from the archons. The archons or the deceivers or the watchers. And what they do is that they trigger strong emotional reaction to cause us to immediately try to say, I feel in my gut XYZ, when in fact it's an inflation of a small feeling, and it may not be the voice of God. Because when you're getting an inkling from your gut, or an emotional reaction that tells you to do something, and it's literally, if you don't do this, you're going to die right now. It's really urgent that you, and it's so strong and so powerful. Yet you're not in the savannah, you don't have a lion or a pride of lion running after you, and it feels so strong and so visceral, like you had that kind of danger behind you. I guarantee you, that the archons are pushing you, and moreover, the part that belongs to you, because the archon cannot create emotions, but what they do is that they inflate any percentage that may exist in you. Maybe that percentage in you is 10%, 5%, 15%. And the rest, the 85%, it's them inflating it and making it feel like it's a crisis. And more importantly, that it's authentically your core telling you to do this. And then you go ahead, you do it, and it takes you to the wrong place. And months later, you realize, oh my God, I made a mistake. I've heard so many people since the beginning of the pandemic who have said to me, I moved out of town, I did X, Y, Z, I made a mistake. Now I want to return back. I want to, because of the, again, the pushing and the triggering of the archon. So who are we listening to? Who are we praying to when we are praying, and who owns our power? Now, your power is your will and your volition and your self-determination. However, it can be easily influenced by all kinds of external circumstances and events, and sometimes by group bodies that we belong to. And the term in French is egrégoire. The egrégoire is a group body that may belong to a nation, a family, a sports team, the group spirit that exists, for example, in a club that you belong to, or in your race, in your gender. So the egregore is a group body, and many of us belong to multiple group bodies. For us to really vibrate at the frequency of the bridge that connects us where we are in 3D into the new earth, and that frequency, there are three things that exist in that frequency. It's truth, authenticity, and transparency. So for us to be really truly authentically ourselves, we have to disconnect the whole bunch of stuff that we give power to, that really we should withdraw that power and bring it back into ourselves. So it's important for us to understand where is our power and who and or what is holding it. Sometimes we react in a way because of our gender. We react in a way because of our race. We react in a way because of our nation. We react in a way, and there's enough polarization going in the world right now to cause all of us to be triggered by all of these things. And unless you're living a self-examining life where you're constantly asking yourself, is this me? Or am I allowing the influence of a group body to sway me into this opinion? You see what I'm saying? It's important for us to understand this, that and again, all of that analysis and observation would come when we are doing the conversation, after you do your universal breath, your 12th breath, and then you're examining your core. If you feel that you're being triggered emotionally by, let's say, something that's happening in the collective unconscious of your club, of your family, of your race, of your gender, and all of a sudden everybody's reacting a certain way, and you're getting picked up by, let's say, your entire nation is feeling a certain way, okay? And you're feeling exactly the same way. You are not the collective. You belong to the collective, but you're not the collective. You're a unique manifestation of God, and therefore you have to be able to isolate truly. There are followers and there are leaders in this world. What God wants us to be in this crossing are leaders. We're going to be the trend centers, we are the bushwhackers, and we have to be able to sense in our core what exactly we're feeling at any moment. And where is that feeling coming from? Where are we being, and it doesn't have to belong to the archon, to Lucifer or Satan. It can belong to a good body, to an egregore. And if it belongs to an egregore and a good body, we have to still be able to separate ourselves from it. Because sometimes the egregore is positive. The influence of the egregore is trying to preserve your life, and it's for your benefit. And if it is indeed for that, yield into it. But sometimes the egregore is reacting in a way that's, what is it that Carl Gustav Jung, I'm going to paraphrase him very badly. They were talking about a crowd that's like doing a protest or something like that. He said, if you look at the collective unconscious of a crowd that's doing a protest, you will have the consciousness of a crocodile. Because everybody is following just a few leaders that are manipulating. And we can talk about multiple things that are happening around the world, where there is a whole bunch of people in the street that are getting riled up, that are screaming and yelling and demanding change. A lot of times it's not authentically their own feeling. They're discontent about something, they're unhappy about something, but they are leaders that are deliberately capitalizing on their fear to agitate it and to inflate it and to call them into action. So the group body has taken over. So there are times when you're sideswept by that kind of energy, where it's counterproductive for you and for your ascension and elevation. For example, particularly when we know we have to remain in neutrality to select not a parallel world, because parallel universes or parallel world or horizontal, they're like the Earth, but it's a different version and they're horizontal. We are trying to elevate into 4D, 5D, 6D. We have to elevate. We have to go vertical. And for us to do this, we can't allow ourselves to, we're going to have to go in a different direction. And for that to happen, we have to own 100% of our power. It doesn't mean we are not going to listen to God. In fact, if anything, it means we're going to so listen to God that we're going to know when to act and when not to act. While the collective, the egregore and the group body of everyone around us will begin to act and behave in a certain way, we're going to say to ourselves, okay, although my entire race is doing this, my entire nation is doing this, but it is not for the glory of God for me to do this at this moment. For the elevation of the planet, I need to do nothing, stand fast and do nothing. Or I need to act in a different way. Because my power is in God. It's not in the group body. My power is not with my spiritual leader, my pastor, or my teacher. My power is not with the matriarch or the patriarch of my family. Or my power is not with my doctor. My power is not with the politician. My power is in God. And right now, God is telling me to act in a completely different way. And that's what I'm trying to instill in you, is that to kind of like, I'm trying to alert you when you're examining your core to find out where your power is. Where exactly is your power? Who are you giving power to? What are you listening to? What are you feeding your consciousness? If you let the influence of the collective unconscious of your group body influence you, you're going to find yourself behaving. And we're seeing it right now. The polarization of people around the world that are acting. People who, I've said this before, there were individuals who have channeled with me or in panel with me, people whose character I could have vouched for in hell, because I thought I knew who they are. I have seen them change in less than 2.5 months because they got sideswept by some other collective, powerful energy that capitalize in a pet peeve that they have, that become the entry point, and all of a sudden inserted inside of them. It's a mind control technique, and inserted inside of them a whole bunch of stuff that are not authentically them, but that now is a fracture or a false access or false personality that they have swallowed, and they completely are convinced is authentically who they are. We need to do better than that. We have to remain very silent in our core and when examining it and ask ourselves, what am I really feeling? What is God trying to tell me? If you're out of employment and you're looking for a job, if you're seeking financial ease and you're leaning into your job or your boss to give you that kind of ease, be very careful. Okay, I know we have to work and that's the way we get the money, etc. But that's not true. The actual force that gives us the abundance and the flow that we need comes directly from the feminine aspect of God, which is Lakshmi. And that energy can use your boss, can use an opportunity to bring you the flow that you need, can use your client, can use everybody else to connect you to the flow that you need. So you need to abstractly request from the universe what you need and what you want, but connect to the source of the power and not to the proxy that exists on earth that you think you're going to get it from. Because a lot of time you focus on the proxy of the work and it's not going to come from the work. It's going to come from an inheritance or somebody being generous to you. It's going to come from somewhere else. And you're focusing, and because we tend to control and prefrontal cortex very much trying to focus and make it creative. The universe may be knocking on your door, on the side door, and saying, no, it's coming from here, and you're closing the door because you think it's going to come from my job because I'm waiting for this promotion. When in fact, it's going to come from a different source. Where is your power? What are you focusing on? It's not the mundane. We have to open our eyes. The veil are already thin. We have to see beyond the veil and begin to penetrate and see that the true power for that abundance and the flow that I desire is not coming from the job. I have to connect to that aspect of the Lakshmi, which is the cosmic mother's milk. That's where the power is. And I'm going to ask of her what it is that I need. And when I connect to her, then the flow will begin to come to me. And I'm now open to let Lakshmi use anybody or any means, the most miraculous and impossible way, to bring the ease that I'm asking her. That's what I mean about where is your power. Don't fix your power or give your power away to intermediary forces, individual people, etc. Keep your power focused on your inner understanding of God. And that boundary and that understanding of God is perpetually expanding, growing. And that boundary is constantly stretching. And your understanding and your connection to that boundary will perpetually expand as well. All right, I've said a lot. Questions, comments? If you can think about something in your life right now that you're dealing with, where is your power connected to that? Something you're trying to accomplish that seems not to be accomplished. Something that's difficult for you, something that seems overwhelming. Are you focusing on some intermediary means that everyone in the world is telling you right now, this is the way you get from where you are to the goal that you're seeking? And if you're doing this, you're not doing it right. Whether it's, whatever it is that you're focusing on, you should be focusing on that in that connection to the abstract energy behind the physical vehicle. If you can understand what I mean.
Yeah, question, please.
Right.
There's also a case where a problem comes or a challenge comes to you that is to your benefit,
Yes.
to make you recognize some pattern of false belief or programming that needs to be cleared. It needs to be identified and cleared. So sometimes focusing on the power behind the resolution is not going to give you the needed response until you're able to make that change in yourself. Is that not true?
Well, Janice, you cannot get to the abstract spiritual component behind unless you pass through what you're holding your power in the physical world. You cannot get to it without, in other words, if you're facing a financial crisis, your first reaction would be, okay, what do I have to do to bring more income? Right? That's your first reaction. What do I have to do? And then you're going to do what you need to do, right? If it's a health crisis, you're going to go to the doctor and you're going to try to address it. If you're in an abusive relationship, you're going to have to figure out a way to move away from the abusive situation. But like all situations like this, it's not that easy to do, to focus on the stuff that's behind it. You have to pass through, you have to deal with what's in front of you, because that thing that's behind the physical, the set goal is so abstract that it takes a while to pass through the lens of, let's say, it's not just about getting a new job. The abundance that I desire comes from Lakshmi. That part is going to be a leap. Okay? So in the process of you focusing on getting the new job, you're going to have to remove all poverty consciousness that you have that's actually causing you to focus on the use searching for a job and not getting the result that you wanted. But more importantly as well, realize that it's because you're holding, because of a past trauma or past thing that you've heard, you're holding poverty consciousness. You're right. And it's through that process of filtering this out that eventually you get to you remove your power into the blockage. And it's all gonna come in a conversation with your core. Okay? I'm just stretching you out a little bit to make you understand that aside from you doing the query and the conversation with your core to try to discover all of the programs and sub-programs and false accesses that you're holding, that there is something else beyond that. And there's a more abstract goal that you have to reach at some point. But you wouldn't, in other words, from the gate, you would not be connected to Lakshmi. You have to go through the process of identifying that I have a problem. I'm not getting the result, although I'm trying multiple ways to create this flow. So it must be something else that I'm not seeing. What is it that I'm not seeing? You do the query, and eventually the stuff pops off and opens, and you see it. And once you see it, you say, okay, then I need to focus on something else. It's not just this. I've corrected all of this. Now I need to focus on connecting to a greater force where all the things that I'm asking, the blessed field has them. Am I making any sense?
Yes. The surrender at that point is releasing the control that you might call it control when you're querying and trying to resolve issues that you are perhaps unaware of or subconsciously holding. Can you perhaps advise then that from the beginning, when a challenge approaches and you know that there's a likelihood that you have such a hidden agenda to be addressed, that you seek Lakshmi or whatever the problem is, source directly, and ask for uh, support while you resolve that issue. So you could surrender, in a sense, the identification that source is the answer and the power, and that while you are surrendering the power of that to source, that you're also complying with the needed inner work.
Okay, so it's complex for the following reasons. I'm going to give you an example. I've had the great opportunity to help a few clients of mine that were in an abusive relationship. Although the pattern was visible to me, these clients of mine never saw it. Okay? Although their relationship was damaged and they were all kind, and they were literally skirting around the issue by creating survival mechanism like anybody that's in an abusive relationship does. But there was an unspoken thing, the core issue, the real issue, the abuser, they never identified it. They knew there was a problem there, but they would never actually connect the word abuser to the person who was causing them to dance around and do all kinds of things that a normal person would never behave in that manner. It takes a minute and somebody with great bravery. And sometimes I remember in situation, I've said it to my client, you're in an abusive relationship. This is an abusive thing that you're going through. And they literally change the conversation. Or they start crossing their arm or their legs and la la la, they turn their head. They don't want to hear it because they are not prepared at that moment to address it because of the fragility of their psyche, to acknowledge themselves that I am in an abusive relationship. Okay? So it takes a while. It has to be and this is where I was saying it's that thing between surrender and doing and saying. As a counselor, as a mentor, it takes a kind of finesse to know when to say it. Mm-hmm. So that the person can hear you and they can say, oh my God, you're right. Because a lot of time I bring situation, I've had other situations where people were, let's say, for example, they had a mother or father complex. Okay, and they're complaining about it. They're a certain age and they're still complaining about it every time I see them. It's the same thing, but different clothing and the same thing. And I have to be very careful how I bring it. And the way I do this often is that I talk about myself. I turn it to me or I talk about another client as a way for them to learn by grace. I explain, I tell them a story, and I said, this happened, blah, 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 with the client, and then trying to help them understand that in that instance, that person was being abused. Hoping that they will learn, and sometimes they don't understand it, they don't get it. I have recently, funny enough, I had a conversation with a friend of mine that I meet almost every day on the waterfront, and she had a car accident many months ago on her knee, and she's constantly in pain. She's got to have acupuncture all the time, and she keeps asking all the time, I don't know what I did, what's the karma, how, and I remember saying to her, it's not your karma, you know. I've said this to her for over a year and a half, a couple of times. And very recently, as 2 days ago, she brought it up again. I said, it's not your karma. And I explained to her, sometime when you're interfering with someone else's karma, the person's karma jump on you because you're interfering. And the kind of personality that she is, she's constantly trying to help people all the time. She gets involved in everything. She's a little bit nosy, but she's also, her heart is pure. She's always constantly trying to help everybody. And And when I said it this time, this is a year and a half later, she got it. And then she went, oh my God, oh my God. And tears started running down her face. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And she explained to me this whole story that there was a friend of what she thought was a friend of hers that was extremely jealous of her. And her mom was always telling her, be careful, this girl doesn't like you, she's jealous. Everybody was telling her, she never saw it. And that day, when they were crossing, the two of them were crossing the street, she pushed her friend out of the way because that friend was going to get hit by the car. Instead of the friend getting hit, she got hit. And she still has the problem, and she's still limping. That knee is still not working correctly. But she finally got it a year and a half later. So a lot of times when you're dealing with things that are so close to you like this, you can't see it. You can't see that you give your power away to the group body. You can't see that you're giving your power to the politician or to the TV and the pundits that are, or the commentators. You can't see that you're giving the power away to the doctor or to whomever it is. You can't see it. But in the process of an internal query, you eventually will discover it. As you sit with yourself and you sit quietly and you begin to say to yourself, well, I've done this. I acknowledge that there was this problem there. I made this correction, I made that correction, and I'm still struggling with this. What am I not seeing? And it is my great hope that at those moments that you will begin to realize I gave my power away to something else. I believe wholeheartedly that it's through the physical funnel of X that I will get to wherever it is that the goal is. And it was erroneous. It was not X, it was infinity times infinity that I had to focus on. Does that make any sense? Did I answer your question?
How would you correct taking on somebody else's karma? I mean, the Ho'oponopono, I suppose, but
Well, the Ho'oponopono, for sure. And I haven't had the conversation with her yet because I could tell that she got very emotional. She said, my mother said this to me when I was in the hospital, Pierre. My mommy, her mother's passed away. Mommy told me this. Mommy told me this. I didn't believe it. Oh my God. And she was crying, wailing. And I was like, wow, she finally got it. Because intuitively, as a mentor, I could see it. But it's too close to her. She couldn't see it. And so I need to have that further conversation to help her understand how you get rid of the karma. You have to say the Ho'oponopono over and over again. And you have to realize that in her instance is that she tends to, it's not helping when you're constantly running after people and trying to map everything. This is the personality that she has.
well, she probably also had a past life connection with that person.
Probably for certain. I would say for certain. Because this woman was extremely jealous of her.
Mm-hmm.
And the crazy thing is that when they both went to the hospital because this other woman was grazed, when she went to the emergency room because her leg was dangling from the knee down, they took her first and she began to, the other woman began to complain. Why are they looking at her first? Why aren't they paying attention to me?
Mm.
And the nurse or the staff there kept saying, because she's more urgent than you, her leg is completely dislocated.
Mm.
And again, it's because of her desire to constantly take care of people. It's coming from the wrong place. It's when you give to people who don't deserve for you to give to them. And when you keep giving like this, that's the core lesson, is that when you keep giving, you have to know when to give and when not to give. And when to receive rather than to give.
Doesn't it also come from a place of low self-esteem?
Absolutely. She's doing this from the wrong place. Absolutely. Her worth is not where it's supposed to be.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I think it clearly is not an easy puzzle. You've given us, though, the tools that we can begin to survey the landscape, so to speak, and see what hidden spots may exist. I mean, the people that have the option to have your assistance in the session can bypass that. But the wonderful thing about what you've given us is that you've empowered us to do that ourselves.
Yes, Janice. Yes, Janice. And for me as well, it's also a challenge. There are times I don't see it. It takes me a minute. And although I'm always, with the flashlight in that core, trying to figure out what am I not seeing. And every once in a while, I'm blessed with an insight that you're giving your power to the wrong thing. So for the next week, I want you to stay in, when you're doing your core examination, you have to ask yourself, where is my power? Where is my power? What person, collective, institution, group body, being am I giving my power to? And what I mean by that is that a lot of time people think that they are praying to God, but it's not God they are praying to. They're praying to something else. As I said, the archons and all of this, the deceiver have a way, Lucifer is known in occult literature as the usurper, the one who wanted to create an alternative heaven. And they call him in a lot of occult literature as the great architect in the universe. In Gnostic writing, that's the way they call him. He is the usurper. He's the demiurge. He's not the real God. And a lot of people are worshiping that because he's the giver of the material things. He gives everything that's material. Now we want abundance from Lashmi, but it's an abstract abundance. But the demiurge gives something else. It gives you fame, it gives you money, but everything is at a cost. And if you're praying to him as the great architect of the universe, you're praying to a false god.
How do you identify them?
Well, you're gonna have to wait for my book that's coming.
Okay.
Because it's coming, okay? And there's a whole bunch of prayer and which angel, and there's a way to not only identify it, but to also disconnect to it, right? But it's in the book, right? But understand that the physical thing of this world, like the one pettier thing, like the banking institution that holds all the money in the world, like the IMF or the World Bank or all these gigantic monetary institutions, they belong to the demiurge. And to a degree that if you project all of your entire existence into how much money you can get out of that system, you're giving your power away to the wrong thing. Because the connection to Lashmi is completely different. I'll never forget, and I'm going to explain to you the difference between the two.
Excuse me, Jeff.
Yes.
What do you call the demiurge? What is it?
The great architect of the universe, Lucifer.
Oh, Lucifer. Okay. Wow. Thank you.
Yes. And I was having a conversation. It's not just me, but a few of us were having a conversation. We're all healers, and we were talking with Georgie, my friend, who's the Buddhist priest, and about we all have talking about the fact that all of our across all, and we all do different things in the healing domain. And we were talking, many of us were feeling the same thing. My clients, I don't have the same clientele anymore. I don't have this, and it's so complicated and all that. And what should we do? And all of us were talking about different things we should be doing. And then he stopped us. We talked for like 10 minutes, sharing him information, 15 minutes. He said, excuse me, I gotta stop you. I don't have that problem. He said, you're all disconnected to Lakshmi. That's your problem. And then he said, I don't have that problem. I have very wealthy clients. And he said, none of that is my problem. He said, I'm going to give you an example, what I mean about connection to Lakshmi. He said, when a client comes in and asks me, because he does feng shui, and asks me to do feng shui for them to help them buy or sell a hotel that's worth, 50 million euros, or a house that's worth $12 million that they want to buy. And they have choice and option. And I'm doing the feng shui and I'm helping them and I see the properties with them and all of that. He said, what you are not understanding, I'm not working for a fee. It is not their money. That money belongs to Lakshmi. And therefore, since I'm connected to Lakshmi, it belongs to me. It's my money. Can you feel the difference between the two? It blew my head. My head exploded. There was smoke. You could almost visibly see smoke coming out of my ear. Because as an architect, professionally, for years, I worked for my 10%. 10% of the construction costs. I built things that were very expensive for clients that had huge budgets. I never, ever understood that abundance and flow everywhere is in Lakshmi. And therefore, if I'm connected to Lakshmi, it's mine. I never saw it. So I had my power fixed on something else. These people, or the 1%, they're opulent, and I'm just getting a little sliver on the side. I put my power on something else. Do you understand what I'm saying, Janice?
Yeah, I get it. I get it. The limitations of our placement of power always are the clue then, because
Yeah.
unlimited should be the correct seat of power.
Infinity times infinity. That's the thing. It's infinity times infinity. Nothing is impossible.
Very good. Thank you.
And he said to them, it doesn't matter what's happening in the world. Because I'm connected to Lakshmi, I will always have. At overflow, I will always have. All of us zip. The rest of us, the three of us, we were zipped up. I was like, oh my God.
The trick in that is that connection, that it be how will I say, the connection not be marred or blocked.
Yes.
Any of those inner issues that poverty consciousness or whatever.
Yes. Yes. As a matter of fact, because I'm him and I'm a friend, I can tell you that he's constantly correcting me. Because when I said, I don't have the money, he said, no, you don't have the money now. It's not true. He's constantly correcting me.
Mm-hmm.
He's constantly telling me I'm saying this wrong. And so you're right. And in so many ways, we are reinforcing what is that old saying from the Greek, the sense of the fathers for the sense or inherited, ancestral, and they pass on from generation to generation. I've heard this my entire life. I heard my mom said over again, if I were to, rather than me doing something bad, I'd rather be poor. I've heard all kind of crazy stuff as I was growing up in my family. Or I heard over and over again my mother saying, I have to sacrifice to make sure that you go to school and you get your books and your uniform. I've heard it over and over again. That word sacrifice, I'm eliminated it out of my vocabulary. I'm not saying it. I will contort all kinds of words. I will never say it again. Because it has become extremely toxic for me. To repeat it is to reinforce lack. And there is no lack in the universe. Any other questions or comments? It's important for us to understand this because, and it's an inner dialogue. It's not something, because where my power is and the number of places where I've blocked myself is very different. My internal map where my power is scattered and pushed through is very different from yours, Janice, from Esther, from Bobby, from Marjorie, from Celine, from all of us. So I have to go to that internal query and internal conversation to try to figure out exactly where is that power and whom or what have I projected it into. The reason the demiurge is called the deceiver is because he's a liar. And the whole world is constructed on that lie. At least the 3D world that we exist in. Any other questions or comments? I want to flip the conversation a little bit and talk about narcissism and power. We are witnessing world leaders, it's not just in the United States, but around the world, who are on the spectrum of being narcissist or having narcissistic disorder. Okay, the best way, and in Scott Peck in his book, The Psychology of Evil, talks about narcissism. And he actually believes what we call evil comes from there. And he starts, one of the premise of the book is that he starts by talking about the fact that all of us believe or fear something that we give power to. Whether it is the government, whether it is the police, whether it is the law, whether it is our parents, whether it is the church. It's something that we think beyond a certain level, we cannot cross it because it will cause some moral or ethical harm to our own existence. Therefore, we have these guardrails that kind of curb or antisocial behavior. The narcissist doesn't have any of those guardrails. They simply believe in themselves. That everything that they want, that they desire, is actually the way the world should be organized. So their power, in other words, normal individuals give their power to something. To a belief in God, the Bible, the church, the police, something. Their parents, there's somebody or someone that they don't want to disappoint. And therefore, they're going to curb their behavior accordingly. Or the job that they have, they don't want to lose the job. There are certain things they will not do. A narcissist doesn't have any of this. They believe in themselves. It's not that they have pulled their power the way I was describing it earlier. It's actually a sickness because their brain is not wired correctly. And what they initially believe is that they are extremely initially, when they are younger, they are extremely motivated and self-empowered, and they are, if they say the sky is red and you said the sky is blue, they will throw a tantrum until you agree with them that the sky is red. Now, it happened that 10% of the planetary population is this way. But these people initially begin, and if it's caught early and they have no empathy, they have no real empathy. Everything revolves around, they can pretend that they have empathy, but really everything revolves around what's going to benefit them for the goals that they have. And I'm saying this because in the context of talking about power, this is a sickness. Because when you put your power, let's say in the church or in the Bible or in a holy book or in your parents, in your country or in your group body or etc., at some point, when you realize the power doesn't exist there, you can stretch that boundary into some abstract thing that can go into ultimately into infinity times infinity. But when you believe in yourself, you're stuck with yourself. You don't believe in anything higher than you. And it's highly toxic. So there are 3 levels to that kind of these kind of people. They initially begin as being extremely self-centered and egocentric, and self-motivated, and backstabbing in the worst way. And they set up everybody against each other, and you have to be very careful with them because they are highly intelligent and cunning. There's a certain level where it becomes a syndrome, and then beyond a certain point, they become so corrupt by their the gaslighting that they are doing to everyone else and to themselves as well, because they believe in their own lie, that at some point it transfers into something else. And at that moment, they become ripe to be possessed by some sort of like foreign energy. It's an old book, but it's a great book. If you have an opportunity, you never read it. It's called The People of the Lie, and it's by Scott Peck. And it's not, it doesn't mean that these people, because again, I said, to ascend and to be enlightened, it's the thin line that exists between surrendering into infinity and doing. These people believe in doing and controlling everything. It's about control. It's about them being in charge and controlling everything. And the thing that the narcissist hates more than anything else, that drives them ballistic, is when you confront them and prove to them that what they're saying is a lie. They will scream and yell, and they will go completely ballistic. Now, if 10% of the Earth population, and by the way, most people with that kind of syndrome and disorder are not pathological, they are not psychopathic killers. They are your neighbors, they're your family members, they are people that you see, they give to charity, they're looking completely normal. It takes a minute for you to discover that this is an issue. It's by you being around them for a while and realize that they are constantly forcing, and they're trying to gaslight you over and over again into believing that their version of an event is what's true. no matter what the facts are and the circumstances are, it's always their version that's true. And over time, you can begin to identify, although, and honestly, people with narcissistic disorder are attracted to people like us that are givers. And you and I should know how to recognize the sign, because we have to figure out a way to isolate these people, because you and I don't have the training to deal with somebody that's narcissistic. Now, as a person like me who's doing the work that I'm doing, these people are attracted to me. And I've had to deal with a few of them in the past. And I had to figure out a way to isolate them and push them away and say, I don't want you in my orbit anymore. I had one right after COVID started, and we were in lockdown, who called me. I had not done. He had created all kind of chaos around me, and he called, and I didn't recognize because it was an unlisted number, and I kept on hanging up. I didn't want to pick up, and he called like 4 or 5 times, and finally I said, okay, let me pick up the phone. This person must want to, and then identified himself, and I didn't even recognize him. This is something that happened maybe 5 or 6 years earlier. I completely had forgot. And then he identified himself, blah, blah, blah. How have you been doing? Blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And given everything that's going on, I was going through the dark night of the soul. Is there any way, I asked for your forgiveness. I said, I forgive you. I said, as a matter of fact, not only do I forgive you, I don't even think of you. I was saying the truth. I don't think he liked that very much, but it was the truth. I don't even think of you. And then he went on to continue to say, I'm wondering if we can talk and have a conversation, if we can we can meet again and we can become friends and all that and so on and so forth. I said to him, I thought about it for a minute, and I said to him, I said, listen, I know me and I know my nature. I'm a Capricorn. Once my trust, I am extremely loyal, and when I give you my promise and my support, I will go in hell and battle for you. But once that trust is broken, there is nothing that can restore it. Even if God himself were to come to me and say, bring this person in your life again, I will never fully 100% trust you again. I don't trust you. I said it would be a futile exercise for us to reconnect and have a friendship again, because I will never trust you. I said, I'm not angry at you. I'm not upset. I wish you the best of luck on your continual endeavor. May you be blessed always. But having a friendship with you, it's something that will not happen. And that's the way I shut that door. Any questions, any comments?
Yeah, when you first started to speak about narcissists, and you said that people have a grand sense of self or empowerment of self. And I thought, well, that sounds like a good thing, doesn't it? To have not a selfish, but a confidence in self. At some point, I guess it diverges into this dysfunction, but it is maybe not in itself a bad thing to aim at.
It's not just a grand and empowered self on themselves. They believe in no one else but themselves.
Oh,
There
yes.
is no greater power than them.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying? They are so, nothing else exists for them. It's not just confidence. They're not wired any other way. It's a brain chemistry imbalance.
Is it truly then, I almost want to say not their fault, but there is a physical reason for this, as you say, chemistry?
There is a brain chemistry imbalance, and there is special kind of training. I knew of parents who had identified that their offspring had had no empathy. They were going to a private school, and they had identified that this child was very cruel and had no empathy for anyone. And they sent the child to a special school where they attempt to expose them environmentally to try to see if they could self-correct or and insert some degree of empathy in them. I don't know to what degree this is success. It's a work in progress. That infant is now a teenager. I don't know to what degree this was successful or not. But I can tell you that there are schools that are geared toward that. But you have to identify the young. If you don't identify it, the person begins first as having no empathy and believing only in themselves and no one else. And then it transferred into them being almost, because they're geniuses, doing things that are almost criminal. And then in the end, they become possessed.
Mm.
Because they are the perfect vehicle for some archon or dark force to enter, because they have no sense of guilt. They have no guilt whatsoever, none. Because they never do anything wrong. That's the hallmark of a narcissist. They're never guilty.
Curious, your example of the person that you once had a friendship with seemed to have found some kind of correction, although understandably you were not going to trust that. But so there can be a healing of that condition.
I don't believe it.
Okay.
I didn't buy it. This is what he was shoveling. I didn't buy it.
But in general, not specific to him.
No, I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it. I think what it is that he remembered that I have property upstate, and it was in the throes of the lockdown, and he wanted to leave the city and go somewhere, and he was going to try to rekindle a friendship. And he's highly manipulative.
Okay.
I didn't buy it for me.
So basically what you're saying is that a narcissist is a narcissist. What is it?
A narcissist
is never going to heal from that dysfunction.
I'm not the expert.
Okay.
I know there are people who have, and there are so many videos on this. There are women, there are psychologists and psychotherapists who specialize in this. I don't know enough, but I know they are very attracted to people like us because we're givers, and they can easily manipulate us because they always have a story of woe, and then they become victim. And in fact, it's not okay. I'm going to say something to you, and using that particular experience as an example. You remember I told you that they are very they believe in themselves and all of that. The manipulation there were fits of crying, breakdown, wailing and crying in front of me, asking for help. They were all connived. They were basically performances.
Mm.
But you would swear it's the real thing.
The tragedy is when they come to power.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to name names.
Yes. I know what you're saying. Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm telling you this again. When somebody becomes that age and they're older, something else inside of them. It's not just them. They start initially as themselves, and then something else occupies, because they become so ripe for these kind of forces, because like attracts like in the universe.
Mm.
Something else comes in.
Well, you did well to distance yourself.
And in this instance, this man had something inside of him that I had witnessed.
Mm.
And I thought to myself, I'm at peace now. Why would I want to bring this thing back into my life and all the chaos and the disruption?
Absolutely.
Why? For what reason? So that I can make him happy and make him feel that that I have a friendship. And when I don't trust him at all, and it's my honest feeling, in this instance, he was around me for a period for 3 years, and I can tell you, he showed me his parts multiple times. And the reason he lasted this long is because I knew I had karma with him. And I was trying to figure out what the karma is, because, okay, when you have karma with somebody, a lot of times you may emotionally or instinctively know, I've known this person before in my life, I have karma with them, but you may not know exactly what the karma is. In other words, what is it exactly that I did wrong? What is the correction? Because karma is repair and correction. What is the correction? Because what we do a lot of time when people that we have karma with shows up in the next life with us, we echo the past, we repeat the exact same mistake. We are not as smart as we think we are. We are not as Homo sapien, we are really dumb about these things. We repeat exactly the same thing. We repeat the same mistake over. Sometimes I've seen it in doing past life regression for people, sometimes 10 lifetimes in a row. The same thing that's repeated over and over again. It takes a minute for you to say, wait a minute. So because of this, when I knew I had karma with this man, I kept saying to myself, it's not that I didn't see it was disrupting everything around me, with my student, with everyone. I knew this, but I had to be very careful and say to myself, okay, I'm not gonna react. I need to understand the karma before I make a decision about what I'm gonna do. And it took me a while to get it. And once I got it, that was the end. And what I was supposed to do, I said it. The last conversation before this call that I remember the last time we spoke, because he was doing all kinds of crazy things around me, detail, too long to get into. And I remember saying to him, and it was a simple thing that I remember for that lifetime that I never said, because in the past life, I never said this to him to end things, because he thought he owned me and he had the right, and I had to be, the magician and the performer, the rescuer, and I said it to him. I said, I owe you absolutely nothing. And at that moment, I felt like something opened up inside of me, like a release. I said, oh my God, that's it. I silently to myself, that's it. That's what I was supposed to say. That's it. And I said, good luck on your journey. I wish you the best of luck. Don't call me again. And I hung up the phone and I blocked everything. I removed this contact information from everything. And I just blocked everything. Any other questions or comments? Now, the narcissists, again, they don't have a higher power. The power is in themselves, and that's it. They don't believe in anything else. They don't believe in God and higher. It's themselves. That's why they're trying to force their version of reality into everyone else. Any other questions, any other comments? The last thing I will say, because it just crossed my mind that some of you may not be aware of this. The archons or fallen angels that were originally designed as guardian angel to help protect humanity that have decided to do something else. They are called watchers in the book of Enoch. They have multiple names, and they have a very specific way of inflating human emotion. Satan or Satan is the adversary. It's a force that was created by God itself as a way to challenge us so that it can cause us to grow by resisting strongly our desire to come back to God. Lucifer is the demiurge or a false god that took 1/3 of the angels from the heaven, and he's trying to create a usurping kingdom to God's kingdom. He's called the deceiver. And they are not the same. That's the reason why I'm saying it. They are not the same. How you deal with them and how they try to interfere with us is very different. The archon inflict emotion and make it look like, because they camouflage and they make it look like the feelings and the emotion are genuine and yours, when in fact they are not, or at least a large percentage of it is not yours. The Satan attacks you directly. It doesn't hide. It's very direct, it's frontal. The demiurge, the deceiver, makes you believe in things of this world. And inflict your desire for the things in this world. Because a lot of time when people are talking, they merge all of these things into one. They are not the same. Any other questions or comments? All right, let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll do the closing meditation when we return. 5 minutes. Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Let your mind and your heart sync with each other. And notice what you notice. Become aware of your entire antakarana, your chakra column, now take a deep breath from the core of the earth and let this breath travel to the bottom of your feet, passing through you, moving through your body as you pause and exhale now completely. Outside of your head and pause. Take another breath from source and let this breath bring in the benevolence and the kindness of God. And bring it into the top of your head as you inhale deeply. Pausing and releasing your breath as you exhale into the core of the earth. Let go. Take another breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move through the bottom of your feet as it moves through your core. And now you pause and you begin to exhale outside of your head and release everything completely into source. and then pause. Take a deep breath from source and let this breath bring kindness, healing, and repairs. And let it drop into the top of your head, moving through your core. And as you pause, begin to exhale and let this exhalation move through the bottom of your feet and to the core of the earth. And then pause. Take another breath from the bottom of the core of the earth and let this breath move upward to the bottom of your feet, passing through you. As it moves upward and you pause, let it move outside of your head. As you begin to exhale and release and let go and surrender everything completely. And pause to allow the love of God to come toward you. Inhale this love and this blessing and bring it to the top of your head as you inhale completely. And as you pause in the core of your being and begin to exhale completely, dropping everything into the very core and center of the earth. And then pause. Take another breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move through the bottom of your feet, passing through you. As you inhale deeply through your body and your core, and as it exits your top of your head, you pause. Now exhale completely as you release this breath and surrender everything into infinity times infinity. Take another breath from source and let this breath cascade down into the top of your head, bringing with it an immense sense of blessing and love, and let it pass through your body as you pause, and then begin to exhale to release everything completely into the very core and center of the earth. Take another breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move upward to the bottom of your feet, passing through your core, exiting outside of your head as you pause, and then begin to exhale completely into source. Surrender everything into infinity times infinity. Let the light, the love, and the healing of the divine come to you. Inhale this blessings into your being as it moves through the top of your head. Bring it back into your body as you pause. And now begin to exhale completely into the core of the earth. Surrender and let go. Take another breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move through the bottom of your feet, moving upward, passing through you as you continue to exhale. And you pause outside of your head. Surrender and let go. As you exhale now completely into source, let go. Let instantaneous repairs and healing come to you from source. And as you inhale all of this blessing, you bring it back into the top of your head and let it cascade down into your being. As you pause, and then you begin to exhale, releasing this blessing into your entire being, into the earth, into the core of the planet. Become aware of your entire core and Antakarana system. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. Listen. Listen as if the more than 50 trillion cells in your body and in your core had ears. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. What kinds of information, insights, and knowing does my core want to share with me? Keep breathing deeply and slowly. Where is my call? Where is my power? What lens, filters, belief systems, individuals, dogma, religious or sacred books or holding my power? In what, in whom have I put my power? I release all attachments, fears, and control, and I surrender to the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I release all attachments, fears, and control, and I surrender to the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I release all attachment, fears, and control, and I surrender to the great emptiness and endless luminosity. Hosanna into the highest. Hosanna into the highest. Hosanna into the highest. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pierre. That was very vivid. In questioning whether or not I'm doing this correctly, I see the inhalation and exhalations not as a central core within me, but as a wide cylindrical diameter extending beyond the body. Is that incorrect?
Yes,
It's incorrect?
it's correct. It's
Oh,
correct.
correct. I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
I want to add also, you have to understand whatever you're giving your power to has the right to censor you. And what we want to do is that we want to emancipate beyond that right and connect directly to source. And let source tell us on an ongoing basis what we ought to do or not to do. And I have to tell you, when you're connected to source, source never tells you what to do, but when you're doing something wrong, it steps in and tells you where you're going right now. You should reconsider this. It doesn't tell you what to do because that's free choice. You can do whatever you want. But when you're doing something that's incorrect, it will come in and tell you, careful. It's a gentle guidance. Whereas if you have a dogma from a teaching or whatever, it's very rigid. There's a difference. I want to thank you all for listening to me. If you're listening to us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and like this video. Or if you're listening on Patreon, thank you for your patronage. And thank you all for listening. Remember, WISAC is next Sunday. So there is no class next week. We're going to be from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be on WISAC celebration connection. And we will not meet. That's from later on that evening. We will be too tired we will reconvene the week after that. So I will see you here in 2 weeks. Blessing everyone. Good night. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Pierre. Thank you.